And welcome to Telewizja Republika. Ukrainian forces are mounting a fierce counterattack in the northern Kharkiv sector. Recent reports confirm that Ukrainian troops have regained lost ground and captured Russian prisoners of war near Vovchansk. Intense fighting continues, but Ukrainian forces are steadily pushing back the invaders. Additionally, long-range strike by French Scalp cruise missiles devastated an office building used by Russian army leadership in Luhansk. Unconfirmed reports suggest that the top commander of Russia's southern front, Colonel General Gennady Anashkin, was wounded in the attack. So sorry, you shouldn't have attacked other countries. It's much safer not to do this kind of things. The Institute for Study of War provides further insights into the conflict. Recent updates highlight dynamic combat in Vovchansk and Russian attempts to reassess maritime borders in the Baltic Sea. Yeah, the thing that we were talking about when we first started talking about Finland joining NATO. Notorious war criminal Vladimir Putin's government continues to provoke neighboring countries, adding to the regional tensions that we kind of get used to in Central and Eastern Europe. Now let's talk about Western support for Ukraine. Germany's efforts to bolster Ukraine's air defenses are faltering. Despite committing significant resources, Berlin's attempts to rally additional support from allies have seen limited success. Promises are plentiful, but actual deliveries remain scarce. This is reminiscent of Germany's previous delays with Leopard 2 tanks. A lot of talk, little action. In contrast, Russia continues to receive covert aid from Iran and China. British Defense Minister Grant Shapps revealed that China is sending lethal aid to Russia. No surprises at all, further fueling the war, while Western nations struggle to coordinate and deliver promised support. Well, no surprises again. Russia's backdoor deals ensure a steady flow of military resources. And the sad thing is that we kind of get used to it, even if we hear a lot of great words of Germany being #1 supporter, Germany not delivering the long-range missiles, and German industry claiming that there is no demand for those missiles. And they're claiming that in the same time when Ukraine is begging to sell those missiles to Ukraine straight to the front line. You can join us on rackracon.com. You'll find our Substack over there. You can leave us your email. We'll get back to you with our reports from the ongoing war against the West. You can also click subscribe to our YouTube channel. We've created the Rackracon YouTube channel especially for our English-speaking viewers, since our main channel on YouTube, which is quite big, 1.13 million users, is mainly in Polish. So, my name is Michał, and this is Rackracon, and we roll in.
Are you ready? 3, 2, 1, go!
And tonight, our guest is Ryan McBeth, intelligence analyst, software architect, and cybersecurity expert. He's well known for his YouTube content on military intelligence. Great to have you on our program. And disinformation topics, Ryan regularly appears on Newsmax as an intelligence consultant and works with Velocity on OS and information warfare. Additionally, he serves as a director of integration at the Texas ArioMed Lab, University of Texas at Dallas, where he develops AI-powered drones to autonomously deliver blood to wounded soldiers on the battlefield. Ryan has also a remarkable 20-year background as an anti-armor and heavy weapons infantryman with 2 overseas deployments. Great to have you on our program. Thanks for your service and for everything that you do for the free world, what we know here in Central Europe.
Thank you so much for having me. I can't wait to talk to you about the technology that is behind the invasion in Ukraine.
What we are discussing this issue since the very beginning of the invasion, even before this invasion actually occurred. But I think that no one really expected how different this war is going to be in terms of technology. We've heard, of course, about drones being used in Afghanistan, in the Middle East, during the Iraq War, but the level and the sophistication and the amount of drones and variety of drones that are being used during this conflict by defending side is something we've never heard of as a general public. I wonder what's your take on this as a professional on that field?
I can tell you that nobody really saw this coming. And in a lot of ways, this was an effort by Ukraine to kind of gain an advantage over a more high-tech adversary using these low-tech drones and using innovation. Ukraine doesn't have the same aircraft fleet. It doesn't have the same missile fleet as Russia does. It barely has the same level of armored vehicles and troops. But one of the things that Ukraine does have is the ability to innovate. And it's something they've been doing since roughly 2014 when the war in Donbass kind of started. So Ukraine kind of had to do this and develop a way to use high-tech drones to fight Russia because it was essentially their last resort.
The drones that we remember, everyone who follows the developments of the Russian aggression against Ukraine remembers the first footage of the single rounds of different ammunition kinds that were dropped from the, like, I don't know, supermarket drones. But on the other hand, we were averse since a certain moment in this war, we are aware of Iran developing and supplying Russia with their drones, which are a serious problem right now. What is the difference between those suicide drones in terms of their usability on the battlefield and those that are being used by Ukraine to defend themselves? Well, I know that those are totally different devices probably, but what are the kinds of drones that are used in this war?
Well, there's quite a few drones. You have unarmed drones that are just used for scouting out areas, scouting out for targets. So that's number one. Another type of drone you have is the armed drone, which would be like the Bayraktar, which you don't really see very much of these days since Russia found a lot of ways to counter the Bayraktar drone, but a larger drone that can drop micro munitions onto targets. That's another kind of drone that you see. The third kind of drone are these one-way suicide drones. And kind of the difference between a drone and, let's say, a cruise missile is that a drone is usually a lot cheaper and typically uses a propeller to get where it's going as opposed to a jet engine. A fourth kind of drone is the loitering munition. Essentially, you can launch a loitering munition, and that munition can stay in the air circling until it finds a target. And sometimes it can even find these targets through AI, where we have a picture of a tank and we tell the AI, go find something that looks like this and dive bomb into it. And kind of the fifth kind of drone is the drone that is dropping drone dropped munitions. At the start of the war, someone figured out that if you took a regular civilian drone and placed a solenoid on it and connected that solenoid to the switch that turned on the light for the drone, what you could do is just a 5-volt switch. What you could do is when you turn on the light, you could open the solenoid. If you can open a solenoid, that means you can drop a mortar round or a 30 millimeter grenade on a target. So those are basically those 5 kinds of drones.
There is one more kind of drone that, at least from the perspective of someone who is watching the videos that are uploaded during this war, are fast drones that are exploding
FPV
itself. What can you tell us about those?
That is an excellent point. So one of the things that Ukraine developed was their own suicide drone. I guess the FPV drone could fall under the suicide drone category. And these FPV drones, first-person view drones, are drones that send a camera feed directly back to a user who is looking through that drone the way he would look if he were actually in the drone flying it himself. And typically, these FPV drones are used in a sport called first person view racing or FPV racing, drone racing. And what the Ukrainians figured out how to do was place a munition on this drone. And then once a targeting drone, an unarmed drone, spots a target, they can send swarms of FPV drones, first person view drones, into an area. And some of these drones can even carry different kinds of munitions. I saw one FPV drone that carried a thermobaric grenade, which blew up an entire house with 22 Russians inside of it. You're absolutely right. You could consider that a 6 different kind of drone. And Ukraine has been fantastic when developing this new kind of technology, mainly, like I said, because they have to.
Well, I have to remember to ask you about the AI because it's fascinating in itself. But before we move to the AI technology using during this war, I assume, at least that's what I think you just meant. But you mentioned also the swarms of drones. And this is, again, something out of science fiction novels. At least we could think that way. But on the other hand, there are some commercially used technologies, drone technologies. We can find them easily on YouTube. Does it mean that the swarms of drones are right now being used as weapons during the war in Ukraine?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Drone swarms are being used. Since probably one of the biggest mistakes the U.S. made during this war was allowing political infighting to kind of take over, as opposed to kind of standing united with Ukraine, and that caused Ukraine to have to pull back and dig in, and they just did not have enough artillery shells. Now, the FPV drones were an innovation that was a result of that pullback and that entrenchment. And this allows them to fight on par with Russia. ISR, or intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance, is so good on the side of Ukraine that Russia can't seem to form any more than a company. A company being roughly 110 men or 12 or so vehicles, 12 to 15 vehicles. Russia just can't form anything larger than that because their signals intelligence, meaning the radio emissions they put out, their thermal signature, meaning the heat from the engines, and their visual signature is just too great. Ukraine spots them and sends these swarms of drones in to go after them. That is a new feature. This is the first time we've seen this in conflict.
How big is a drone swarm? Are we talking about, I don't know, 5 or 50 or 500?
Oh, not 500, but we're talking about average drone swarm. You're talking about 5 to 15. Depends on how many operators they have who are available that can control these FPV drones to send them into the target. But it will be as many as possible.
Yeah, that brings another question to my mind. If we are talking about the swarm, we should be talking, as you just mentioned, about different pilots, operators of those drones. But on the other hand, it's very easy to imagine that a single operator can control a swarm of drones if you are able, or the technology allows to point targets, to direct them in a certain manner. And that actually brings us very close to AI technology, at least from the perspective of AI online user in office work. You could think of the prompts that you could send to artificial intelligence having a couple of devices to be controlled in certain manner. Is that possible?
If you want, it is not only possible. We've technically had AI operating weapon systems since the 1980s. The Patriot missile system that defends Poland, that Patriot missile system is fully automated. You just turn that Patriot missile system on, and it performs all the evaluation of incoming targets. It decides what kind of course of fire, shoot, look, shoot, or salvo, or ripple fire. It decides all that. The Aegis system that is on American destroyers, that system is fully automated, and it can talk with other ships. That way you're not shooting two missiles at an incoming plane or an incoming missile. And Aegis Ashore, which again is an
Is in Poland.
installation that protects Poland. Yeah, Aegis Ashore,
Yeah.
that is an AI killer robot. So this is really just the next phase, integrating AI and one single operator that can give commands to different drones and say, okay, fly until you find something that looks like this and have that thing dive onto the target. It's just the next evolution on the battlefield.
That's fascinating. You mentioned that we are talking about the technology 40 years old. I remember the discussion. I was a kid back then, but I remember discussion about the Star Wars programs and the technology that was discussed, along with discussion about the missile defense system during the communist times. But does it mean that we are talking about what does it mean to have AI technology in a modern warfare? Does it mean that those computers support officers who finally make decisions, or we are talking about the systems that basically delivers information, transforms this information, and makes certain decisions? I'm not talking about the decision whether to destroy or not to destroy, to act or not to act, but are we talking also about the decision-making process right now?
Absolutely. And so, one of the ways that AI can help at the theater level, meaning at the strategic level, is that AI can help figure out where the enemy is and what the enemy might do next by taking in all sorts of intelligence from the battlefield and integrating it into one place, which is something that would take human intelligence officers hours or even days to process. Like, for example, you might have a satellite that is constantly going over the same spot of the Earth every 3 days. AI can actually look at those images that are taking, they're taking pictures at the same time every day, and it can flag a human and say, "Hey, you might want to take another look at this because I noticed a difference in 1 pixel." And if 1 pixel means 1 meter on the ground, that's not might not be
And that
something a
shouldn't
human
be
could
here.
find. Yeah. It shouldn't be here.
Yeah, but it means
Oh yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
that's what it
Yeah,
could
that
mean.
shouldn't be here.
This pixel shouldn't be here, and that could mean
Exactly.
something. So we are talking about the process very similar. Sorry to try to compare it to the things that every regular computer user may think of. But this is basically the way that we all use artificial intelligence in our everyday office work. Kind of things that are repetitive, that the people that is annoying for people, but computers can do it easily, analyzing also this kind of data. Does it mean that an operator, because we are talking here, we are 200 kilometers from the Russian or Belarusian border. Over the span of last 6 months, we had several attacks, rocket attacks on Ukraine, and several missiles within our Polish airspace. What is the way that AI can be used to analyze ongoing rocket attacks? Because this is basically what is going on here constantly. Russia sends, I don't know, 100 missiles, 150 missiles, 20, 30, 50 suicide drones, and Russia is attacking Ukraine, but can easily cross the border. So what is the way that this kind of attacks are being analyzed and watched by the NATO?
Well, there's probably a couple of things that they're doing here. One of the first things is that AI is taking a look at where these rockets are being launched from and when they're being launched. They might also be taking a look at the way they are ripple launched. Remember that Russia can have a lot of missiles, but you can only fire as many missiles as you have launchers. So if you notice that every day Russia launches 10 missiles, but AI might be able to say, wait a minute, every Wednesday they only launch 5 missiles from this location. So that might mean that Russia is performing maintenance on these missiles or on these missile launchers on Wednesdays. So maybe they're maintaining half their missiles on that Wednesday. That's something that AI can discover pretty darn easily. And once you have that information, now you can tell the Ukrainians, okay, if you want to move troops, do it on a Wednesday
On
because that's when
Wednesday.
Russia is maintaining their launchers.
So it's not only intelligence support, but also this kind of decision. Okay,
Yeah.
my final question is a question of a total different type of drones that are also at least from perspective of a man with no military background. The maritime drones and the things that are going on the Black Sea as we speak. Seems to me that this is a thing that is being very closely watched by the whole intelligence community of the world. I've never heard about the maritime drones, about the drones that were used during this war to destroy number, I don't know, 12, 15 Russian vessels. What do we know about those devices?
Oh, basically, again, Ukraine innovates. So they essentially take a jet ski, a recreational vehicle. They place a guidance system on it. They place a radio system on it and a camera system. And they send this small jet ski out to attack. Oh, and they also put explosives on the jet ski. And they send this jet ski out to attack major naval targets. And there's essentially two problems that Russia has in detecting these targets. The first problem is that these targets are very, very small. So they might be mistaken for something like debris on the ocean. And the second is that the Russian guns might not be able to depress. Once they do detect this weapon system, once they do detect this jet ski, the Russian gun system might not be able to depress far enough to actually engage that jet ski because Russian ships, most of them were designed back during the Cold War when the idea of autonomous jet skis just wasn't even a concept. So that's kind of why they're so dangerous. And as they're evolving, right now the United States is assisting Chile with AI-powered unmanned surface vehicles that are going to patrol fisheries for illegal Chinese fishing. So the sky's the limit when it comes to these unmanned surface vehicles.
Okay, and so my final question is a question of something that I've heard about from my late grandfather who was fighting the Second World War. And he was talking about the unmanned vehicles used by Germans during the Second World War, but they were using it on the ground with the small tanks with no crew inside. They were using it and controlling it through the long wires, and that makes me think that actually the idea of an unmanned weapon vehicle is not as modern as we may think. However, the way it is used right now is totally innovative, as we are talking here. What's your comment on this? It doesn't look like a completely new idea.
Yeah, the idea of extending your presence or using a machine that can take hits without killing a human, that certainly isn't a new idea. The difference is that once you give that machine the capability to think, or at least the capability to pattern match, that allows some level of autonomy and it can operate a lot faster than a human being. The German that was sitting inside of a tank, remote controlling that vehicle, what's the one thing that could happen to him? He gets tired.
Yeah.
The computer never gets tired. The computer's just going to keep doing what you tell it to do as long as you give it power. And that's kind of the real game changer here, that as humans get fatigued, these AI-powered systems can augment these humans by continuing to work while the humans are resting.
Okay, that's really the final question. I know it's a kind of philosophical question, but probably you as an AI and weapons expert are asked this question numerous times. But there is a question and a kind of a fear of a human being. If we are talking about the machines that are almost capable of thinking, what about the ultimate decision that the machine can take? What is the way that people like you and people who are working in this business are describing the moment when the machine can or cannot make a decision against the human being who designed the machine?
Oh, so that's always a question, right? And typically, AI tends to be very specific. People look at AI as the gold standard of AI is general intelligence. General artificial intelligence which would be a thinking machine that can think like a human. And there are some people like me who look at that and go, that's great, but we already have general AI. They're called humans, and there's like 7 billion of them on the planet. We don't really need to develop that technology. But AI becomes very effective when you're giving it a specific task to take. So that AI task might be look at these soldiers in this field. And if these soldiers don't match the profile of a NATO soldier, shoot until the thermal properties of that blob stop. So, when you shoot somebody, they start to lose heat, all right, because their heart stopped and they're dead. So you can use AI to identify and target soldiers that are in a field. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean the AI is going to turn itself around and start shooting you unless you told it to do that. So a
If you
lot of this
create a
is
specific
based on,
prompt.
yeah, unless you create a prompt, right, to do that. So for the most part, whenever we use AI, we're giving it certain kinds of constraints that are specific to the mission. And a lot of times, if you have something like a loitering munition, it has a picture of a tank inside of it that says, find something that looks like this and destroy it. The AI is not programmed to go, you know what, I don't feel like destroying that today. I want to destroy an ice cream truck. Software doesn't work like that.
Okay, that's very interesting. Thanks for your time and your presence on Telewizja Republika. All the AI office users were certainly, it was very interesting for all of people who are using this new technology. And we just have to remember that this is just a technology, and the times where we're thinking about being scared of using computers are past behind us. So this is also the thing that we should think of as a AI in general. Thanks a lot. Hope that we are going to have a chance to talk again pretty soon.
Thank you so much for having me on the show. I really enjoyed this.
Ladies and gentlemen, you can join us on rackracon.com. That's our website. You'll find our Substack over there. You can leave us your email. We'll get back to you with our reports on ongoing war against the West, the war that we try to report on our program. Stay safe. See you soon on Monday, probably.